Most wholesalers are fighting over $10,000 assignment fees in markets where every seller has already talked to 5 other wholesalers this week. But what if I told you there's a version of this business where assignment fees start at $100,000? The marketing costs are a fraction of what you're spending, and you can actually offer sellers more than what Zillow says their house is worth and still walk away with a fat spread. Because that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. By the end of this video, you're going to have the full system for finding luxury properties, reaching out to the homeowners, closing them, and then selling those properties to developers for 6-figure assignment fees. My name is Tyson Smith. I've closed hundreds of wholesale deals in over 20 different states, and after 6 years in the traditional space, I made the switch to luxury because the numbers made too much sense to ignore. And once you see what I'm going to show you, you're going to understand why. Because in traditional wholesaling, you're cold calling 500 plus people per day, you're competing with 5 other wholesalers on every single deal, compared to luxury where you can make over $100,000 a deal with a fraction of the cold calling and you basically have no competition. And we'll start with step number 1, which is actually picking your market. Now keep in mind that what I'm about to walk you through works in pretty much every single state in the United States because every single state has a luxury area. And for the sake of this video, we're going to use Scottsdale, Arizona as our example. If you go to Zillow right now, you clear the filters and you set the year built to 2023 or newer, what you're going to see is pockets of properties where developers are actively building luxury areas. These are areas where homes are selling for $3, $4, $5 million and up. And if you click on a few of these new builds and look at what they actually sold for in Scottsdale, you're going to see exits 4.1 million, 4.8 million, 5.25 million. They're all on 3/4 acre to 1 acre lots. But here's where it actually gets interesting. If you scroll down to the price history on any of these, you can see exactly what the developer paid for the original property. And in the examples we pulled, they were paying between 1.1 and 1.2 million for these lots in 2023 and 2024. That's a clear pattern. And if you look at the surrounding properties that haven't been torn down yet, they're ones right next to these new builds, and their Zestimates are sitting at 1 million, 1,080,000, 1.1, all homes built in the 1960s and 70s on the same size lots. And if you're wondering how I know these exact numbers, well, it's because I made a video where I speed ran this entire process live on camera, where I even pulled the lists, even got on real calls with the sellers and the developers on camera. So if you're interested in watching that, I'll link the video below so you can watch it after this one. But here's where it becomes even more interesting. Because the way that Zillow calculates the estimate, it's based on the square footage of the home times the average price per square foot in the neighborhood. So a 1,500 square foot house from 1966 gets an estimate of $1 million and change. But developers are paying $1.2 million for that property because they're gonna tear that house down and they're gonna build a $5 million plus new build, which means you can offer the seller $50,000 over this estimate and still assign it for a 6-figure spread. And if you think about that, you're offering people more than what Zillow says their house is worth, and you're still making $100,000 plus. You're not gonna hear anything close to this in traditional wholesaling, but in luxury, that's the whole business model. So the market selection process is actually really straightforward. You're looking for pockets of new builds worth $2, $3 million plus on Zillow. You check the lot sizes and the exit prices, so you see what the developers paid in the price history, and then you compare the estimates of the surrounding older homes to what developers are actually paying. That gap between this estimate and the real purchase price is where your assignment fee lives. So once you've locked in your market, the next step is actually pulling a list. Now that you know where the deals are, you need every property in that area that's gonna fit a developer's buy box. And the way we do this is with a data tool where you can draw a map around the exact area where you found those new builds. So in Scottsdale, we drew around the corridor where all the development was happening and right away pulled about 1,000 properties. So you start filtering down based on everything we just learned, right? You're only gonna want stuff that's built before 1980 because those are the teardowns. And we're looking at 3/4 acre lots or bigger because that's the size that developers are actually buying, single family residential only. And one that most people would never even think of is filtering out anybody who's owned the property for less than 5 years. Because if somebody bought one of these houses in like the last couple of years, they're probably not living in it. They probably are a developer or an end user who's gonna knock it down and build something for themselves. So we just go ahead and filter those out. When we ran this in Scottsdale, it brought us down to 287 properties. And every single one of those fits the exact criteria that developers are actively buying. From there, we save the list, name it with the details we use so everything stays organized and we get it skip traced. Now, we use virtual flip leads for this where all the plans include thousands of skip trace records a month, so that didn't cost us anything. And by the way, if you want us to help you pick the right market and build this whole system for you, that's actually actually exactly what we do inside our Lux Blueprint program. So I'll leave a link below and you can see if there are any spots available for this month. But for now, let's get into the part that actually moves the needle, which is outreach. Now, the outreach method we use to reach these luxury homeowners is primarily just through SMS text messages. And I know you might be rolling your eyes right now, but just think about who these people are. High profile, busy, successful people, all right? They're not picking up a cold call from your virtual assistant, and if they do, they're gonna hang up very quickly. But when the right text hits their phone, it gets their attention. And here's the thing about luxury. You're not competing with 5 other wholesalers that are blowing up the same person's phone. If you search right now, how to wholesale luxury properties on YouTube, there's almost nothing except for my videos. Okay, this is a complete blue ocean. The software we use for this is the Smarter Contact on the Elite plan, which is very important. And that starts at $7.99 a month. And I know that might sound like a lot until you actually compare it to what traditional wholesaling costs. Anybody who's actively making more than $100,000 a month wholesaling real estate the traditional way is spending $10,000 to $50,000 a month or more on marketing. With this, you're at $7.99 for the texting and maybe $100 to $200 a month for the data. And that's the grand total. And one deal pays that back 100 times over. And also, the message framework isn't rocket science either. So what we do is we just lead with our name. We tell them that we work with developers in the area. We mention their specific address, and then we drop a price range right in the first message. So they're gonna read something that says something like, hey, this is Tyson. I work with developers in Scottsdale. We're looking for properties in your area. Would you be interested in selling, 123 Main Street? And then I hit them with the range. I'm like, hey, I'm not here to waste your time. It would be somewhere around $1.2 million cash, no realtor fees. Would it be worth a chat? And that price range in the first message is everything. It's immediately gonna filter out any tire kickers, and it's gonna show the homeowners you actually know what you're talking about. You're not some random wholesaler that's fishing for a deal. Remember, these are sophisticated people and they respond to directness. From there, we typically create about 8 variations of this message so it doesn't look automated. And then we set up a follow-up system that goes out 24 hours later to anybody who didn't respond. So simple check-ins to see if they're interested. Then you launch it and you let it run. Once the responses start coming in, that's where the acquisitions kick in. And unlike traditional wholesaling, you're not asking about the age of the AC or the condition of the roof or when was the last time the bathrooms were remodeled, because none of that matters. The property is gonna get torn down. All that matters to us is the lot size, and more importantly, is what the seller needs. And when somebody responds back with interest, we call them back immediately, okay? Remember, the text message is just an invitation to a phone call. We're not sitting there trying to text them like schoolgirls. And if they don't answer, double dial, leave a voicemail, or schedule a time to talk on text. Now, on the call, there are really 4 things that you're selling. Number 1, privacy, because it's off market, no neighbors know that they're selling. 2 is speed, because we can obviously close much faster than a traditional listing process. Number 3, convenience, because there are no agents, showings, or months sitting on market. And 4, certainty, because the transaction actually gets done and they don't have to worry about disclosures or anything like that. Now, what I love most about these conversations compared to traditional wholesaling, where you're dealing with like the most stressed out person of all time, right? These people are in tough situations like pre-foreclosure. They've got a ton of problems, which is why half the times they ghost you. Whereas in luxury, these are sophisticated people, right? This might be their 2nd, 3rd, 4th home. They're going to answer your calls. They're going to show up when they say they will. And you can be fully transparent with them from the start. So when you tell them that you work with developers, they understand exactly what's happening. Because of how the math works with realtor fees and closing costs, you're actually gonna be offering them about what they would net on the open market anyway. So the conversations move fast. You already know what the developers are paying for because you did the research up front, so you're able to just get right into the numbers. You're telling them where you'd be at price-wise, somewhere around 1.1 million, and then you're showing them that when they factor in closing costs, realtor fees, they're netting about the same as what they would if they sold on market without the showing, without the month sitting on market, without having to deal with disclosures. And when they agree, you get it under contract, you should already have a buyer waiting because that developer around the corner that just exited a new build for over $4 million is gonna wanna go ahead and do that again. And what I love about this business model is that once you close your first deal in an area, it snowballs because developers talk to other developers, sellers tell their neighbors, and referrals come in without you spending a dime. So each deal plants the seed for your next 2, 3, 4, 5 deals. And the last piece is disposition, which we already kind of talked about, right? This is how you find the developers who are actually paying the 6 figures for these deals. And honestly, this is like the easiest part of the whole process. Remember, when we went to Zillow, look, same zip code, filter, year built, 2023 or newer, you're gonna see every single property that developers have already built and sold in that area. And if you click on the listings and you read through the descriptions, Most of the time, the builder's name is right there in the listing description. So from there, you just Google the company's name plus the city, pull up their website, and their phone number is gonna be right there, and reach out. And the conversation is stupid simple. You're calling them, say, hey, I see you sold that property over there. Right? Mention what they paid for the lot and ask them if they'd be interested in something similar that's off market. And the answer is going to always almost be yes, because these developers need inventory and there just aren't enough lots on the market for them to buy. So when you bring them something that fits their buy box, they're going to jump on it. And here's why: once you lock up a luxury deal, you know it's closing. In traditional wholesaling, you're always one inspection away from losing your fee. Right? Guys, in traditional wholesaling, these buyers have super tight margins. So one unexpected repair and suddenly they're trying to renegotiate it down, $10, $20, $30,000, or even walk away entirely, right? For most wholesalers who are actually doing volume, contract to close ratio is going to sit around 50%. Where in luxury, developers are making millions on the back end. So even $150,000 unexpected site work or whatever doesn't even register. And your contract to close ratio is going to be over 90%. But sometimes the builder's name isn't in the listing, and that's completely fine because there are two other ways you can find the buyer. The first is just call the listing agent, because the agent who just listed that $4.8 million new build has every reason to work with you. Because if they bring your deal to their development client, they're positioning themselves for a listing on the back end when the new build is done. And that's a potential, $120,000 commission. So paying them $27,000 on the acquisition side is nothing when you're locking up at 1.1 million and assigning at 1.25 million, because you walk away with 125,000, the agent gets taken care of, everybody wins. The second option is just to skip trace the address to find out who the actual buyer was, which does take some digging, but if you're any at all experienced with skip tracing tools and just using the internet, then you can find it really quickly. So that's a breakdown for the full system on how to find and close luxury homeowners in 2026. And once you get your first one, the second gets easier because you now already have a relationship with buyers who are actively looking for more, and they see that you can actually bring them deals. Now, you can probably see why luxury operates at a completely different level than traditional wholesaling. And this isn't to say that traditional is dead, because it absolutely still works. I'm still wholesaling traditional properties. You just have to put in more effort to stand out above the competition. And if you're going to work harder anyway, why wouldn't you work harder for 10 times the money with sellers who actually answer their phone, buyers who don't renegotiate over every little thing, and a 90% contract to close ratio instead of flipping a coin on every single deal? Right? That's why I made the switch. And if you want to do the same, that's exactly what we help our students with inside the Lux Blueprint. We help you pick a market where developers are actively buying. We find you the best neighborhoods in that market. We build you a marketing budget based on your time and your availability. And every deal you find us, you send us, and we will run your numbers. And when it's time to sell, we'll help you connect with the buyers who are already buying in that market. So if you have some skin in the game and you're ready to transition from 10 to 20K fees to 100K plus, I'll leave a link below where you can fill out a short application to see if we'd be a good fit to work together. I'll see you there.